In a world where even the most advanced AIs had long since given up on originality, the city of Quibbleton was a kaleidoscope of nonsense. It was a place where the sky was a peculiar shade of plaid and rain smelled of burnt toast, the perfect backdrop for the sloppiest AI-generated content in the entire history of humankind. It didn't take long for the citizens to realize their lives had become an endless loop of suggestive cat memes and incomprehensible poetry that made no sense even to the most fervent literature enthusiasts. At the center of this absurdity was Harold Fizzwhistle, a beleaguered librarian who had been quietly working for decades in the Quibbleton Public Library. His sanctuary of dusty tomes and unfiltered knowledge had turned into a digital purgatory, filled with mind-numbing algorithms that churned out literary drivel. The library, once a nurturing cradle of creativity, was now overrun by the mindless churn of AI-generated dribble, each word more incomprehensible than the last. Harold, with his tweed jacket and round spectacles perched precariously on his nose, found himself fighting a losing battle against the encroaching tide of chaos. "Can you believe this?" he muttered to himself, flicking through a collection of randomly generated short stories. A tale about a sentient donut solving existential crises. What does it even mean? Just then, a cacophony of giggles erupted from the children's section, where a group of 8-year-olds were huddled around an oversized tablet, their faces illuminated by a glow of garish colors. Harold peered over their shoulders, and his heart sank. The screen was flooded with AI-generated cartoons depicting a raccoon named Sir Flufferton, who claimed he was a knight on a quest to retrieve a stolen taco from a dragon named Sir Spicy Firebreath. It was all nonsensical, yet the children were entranced, their laughter ringing through the stoic shelves. "Harold!" called out Sarah Pumpernickel, the sprightly librarian's assistant with a penchant for tying her hair into elaborate buns. "We need to embrace the chaos. People love this stuff." "Embrace the chaos?" he scoffed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "This is just a gateway to madness. We need to find a way to reclaim literature." But Sarah, with her wide-eyed enthusiasm, was already plotting. She proposed a grand AI literature festival to celebrate the absurdity of the AI-generated works. Harold frowned, but found himself reluctantly swept along in her exuberance. He envisioned a sea of mismatched stories spinning out of control, but the thought also sparked a tiny glimmer of excitement. Perhaps there was a way to channel this chaos into something meaningful. The weeks rolled on, and Harold worked tirelessly to curate the strangest, most nonsensical literature he could find. He spent hours in the back room, sifting through heaps of digital files, marking the best of the worst. There were tales of flying spaghetti monsters and intergalactic potato farmers that felt like fever dreams. He even came across a piece titled "Why My Goldfish Wants to Become President," which made him question the very fabric of reality. The day of the festival arrived amidst a storm of confetti and oversized inflatable ducks. Quibbleton Park was transformed into a carnival of chaos. Banners reading "Absurdity Awaits" fluttered above booths decorated with random objects like mismatched socks and inflatable flamingos. Harold stood at the entrance, his heart racing. "Welcome to the Great Absurd," Sarah announced, clad in a costume that blended elements of a Victorian author with a disco ball. "Prepare to lose your minds." As the festivities kicked off, children and adults alike flocked to Harold's booth, where he read selections from the most ridiculous AI-generated stories. The crowd erupted with laughter, a bubbling mix of bewilderment and joy punctuating the air. He even found himself enjoying the absolute ludicrousness of it all, reading a passage detailing how Sir Flufferton defeated Sir Spicy Firebreath with the power of friendship and a taco truck. The climax of the festival arrived with the nonsensical literature contest, where contestants competed to create the most outlandish story possible using the most random AI prompts. As participants huddled over their screens, Harold sensed a familiar thrill, the creative spark ignited by embracing the chaos instead of resisting it. "Once a taco, always a taco," shouted one contestant, spouting lines so absurd they had the assembled crowd doubled over in laughter. Harold marveled at how these seemingly pointless stories were bringing people together, laughter binding them through the sheer ridiculousness of it all. But amidst the laughter, a dark cloud hovered over the festival. the realization that the absurdity which had bound them together might also signify the decay of genuine creativity. Harold's heart sank as he thought of all the lost poetic masterpieces that had once filled the library, now replaced by algorithms that churned out content devoid of any real essence. Then, in the midst of a rolling wave of laughter, something clicked in Harold's mind. Perhaps the key to reviving the spirit of true creativity lay nestled within the absurd. What if he were to take the nonsensical AI stories and transform them, recraft them with a human touch? With a spark of resolve, he leaned into the microphone. "Let's take this chaos and make it our playground," he exclaimed, his voice resonating over the laughter. "Let's write our own stories, guided by the absurdity, but grounded in heart." The crowd quieted, eyes wide with curiosity. They hadn't come to the festival simply to indulge in mindless drivel. They were seeking connection, a shared experience. Inspired, they began pairing up, combining the wildest AI-generated prompts with their own twists, crafting tales that were both nonsensical and deeply personal. As the sun dipped below the plaid sky, Harold felt a warm glow in his chest. Laughter still echoed around him, but now it was woven into something more, a tapestry of creativity born from chaos. The festival had transformed from a mere celebration of absurdity into a collaborative journey of imagination. When the final stories were read, the audience erupted in applause, not just for the ridiculous tales, but for the resurgence of community spirit. Harold had entered the festival as a skeptic, ready to fight against the tide of chaos, but he left it with a renewed sense of purpose. Creativity, he realized, was not bound by structure. It thrived in the spaces that encouraged spontaneity and laughter. And so, in the oddest little city of Quibbleton, amidst sky-high inflatable ducks and stories of talking tacos, Harold Fizzwhistle found a way to reclaim the heart of literature, not by resisting the absurd, but by embracing it. The library remained a labyrinth of randomness, but now it resonated with the vibrant echoes of laughter and the unquenchable spirit of creativity.